So as I mentioned, my name's Jason Johnson. I'm with the WhyTry organization. Thrilled to be back with you moderating one of these webinars for you today. We're going to be talking about creating a resilient school culture through student services. And we have some amazing panelists today that I'm excited to introduce. I'm just going to go through the list here, tell us who we have, and then we'll jump right into the conversation. We are thrilled to have Dr. Christopher Pugliese. Chris practices servant leadership in addition to his role as Director of Pupil Services. He is a level 1 Google certified educator, a Center for Supportive Relationships certified relational skills coach, a NASP-certified PREPARE Trainer, and a member of the Trauma Informed Education Coalition. He completed his doctoral research on the influence of teacher-student relationships on teacher well-being, and he is committed to implementing the findings to improve relationships and well-being in students. He's presented at many state and national conferences since 2017, been a featured speaker in the Introduction to Teaching undergraduate course at Neumann University, contributed articles published in ASCD Express and Pennsylvania Teacher Educator. Welcome, welcome, Chris. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Next, we have Dr. Larissa Henderson. Larissa currently serves on the National Association of Pupil Services, NAPSA Administrators President. Currently the Director of Pupil Services in Oak Ridge School District in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, wears a lot of different hats from attendance, discipline, food services, foster care, homeless, migrant, immigrants, ELL, school nurse, court liaison, Title IX coordinator, Title VI and Title III. You call Pupil Services the customer service department for the school district. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. I love that. Dr. Henderson feels that the most rewarding aspect of her job is working with and helping students and their families. Amen. Her day changes hourly and change can be overwhelming, but she enjoys a good challenge every now and then. Welcome, Larissa.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
And then last but certainly not least, we have Deidre Parsons. Deidre is currently the president-elect of the National Association of Pupil Services Administrators. She began her educational career as a sub and has served in almost every role possible in a school, including as a secretary, cook, classroom aide, and as a custodian. While working as a custodian, she earned her teaching degree. She then taught resources and supported an inclusion schedule for special education students. Deidre then went on to complete her master's degree in administration from Ashland University and served as an assistant principal for a year and a principal for 5 years before settling into her current job as the Director of Student Services for Barberton City Schools in Barberton, Ohio. Welcome, Deidre.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
By the way, my first real job in education was as a custodian as well at an elementary school. I did it for like 6 years. And you learn a lot. I love it.
Yes, you do. Also, I think transportation might be my next endeavor. They haven't let me drive the school bus yet.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it would be a great opportunity. So as I mentioned, we are thrilled to have all of our panelists with us today. And I want to get right into the conversation. We're going to target kind of like we normally do, go for about an hour, and just excited to see where the conversation goes. I thought maybe what we could start off with is we'll go around and I'm just going to ask each one of you, sorry, I'm just adjusting the spotlight settings here, but I'm going to ask, oh, where did we go? Did I remove all the, sorry, I'm trying to remove all the spotlights. Okay, now I got it. I'm going to invite all of you to just talk a little bit about what your current role is and what the term pupil or student services means in your area. And then maybe in conjunction with that, talk just a little bit about what the last year has been like for you in that current role and what your work has looked like through it. Let's go in this order. Let's hear from Larissa, then Deidre, and then Chris.
Okay. Well, as far as the definition, my definition of pupil services, as I tell people, anything that has the word student or pupil in it comes through my department. So that covers a lot of ground. Um, I think for me, pupil services, as I call it, the customer service department for the school system, because a lot of questions that the community or the public or new parents have coming in, I'm the first person they call, even though they're not sure I'm the person they need to call. I think one mom told me one time, she said, I can always call you and get a live person on the phone. Because you're there early, you stay late. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm trying to get things done, but I think people catch me in my office, which is fine. I think as far as pupil services, that should be our foremost number one goal or purpose, or the kids. That's what we're in the school business for. I started out as a elementary school teacher, and I think it just kind of transpired into what I do now. I think pupil services has evolved since I have been in my role. I'm not real sure about Dee and some of the other people, but I think too, as we, I'm sorry, that's my phone.
Somebody trying to get a hold of you. That's pupil
No, already
services.
say that, and I thought I had it on silent or vibrate. But I cut it off, so I'll have 15 or 20 voice messages when we get off this. But anyway, I think as we start to look at different things and different laws change, different needs come about, I think pupil services is the one department that gets a lot of that information given to them to proceed on. As we talk about with COVID hitting and all those different things, those changes, I was like everybody else. I'm a people person. And so when we had to shut down and stay home and work from home, as one of my friends said, well, now you know what retirement is going to look like. And I said, no, not for me, because I don't see retirement in my future yet, because I didn't like being locked in. But I think I saw too a lot of the different things I had to do and how to, I guess, manage my tasks better. Because it was just me not having a secretary, not having this, not having that, but I still had to get the jobs done. I also saw a lot of changes within our community with people losing jobs, families becoming homeless. So I even became a social worker, so to speak, on that end as well. Homeless families coming in. I have made people know how to contact me when at the hotels and different agencies in our community if there is a need. So I think that's why I say customer service department, because people know they can go there and get an answer whether you're the right department or not. And I started laughing at Dee when she was talking about transportation. I've even worked with that as well, and I have been told by our transportation supervisor he will help me get a CDL license so I can drive bus. I'm not to that point yet, but anyway, but we had to come up with ingenious ways to even feed kids during that time of COVID, because we had a lot of kids that relied on the schools for a hot breakfast, a hot lunch, and sometimes an afternoon snack. So helping pack up food, going to different sites. So pupil services, it evolves. Your role just changes all the time. That's why you wear a lot of hats. And you have to enjoy what you do, or it would drive you crazy. But there's some rewarding sides to it as well, because you hear families say, you've been such a blessing to me. I don't know who else I could have reached out to. So that's the rewarding part of it, when I know I've been able to make or help someone make somebody's day brighter and touch one family and a child one at a time.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Deidre.
And going right along with Larissa, with all those hats that you wear, I usually tell everybody that everything goes through my department except for curriculum and sports.
Yeah.
And we are also the complaint department. In my area, most of the time, you do both the student services part, which enrollment, and then the special education part of it. So we have a lot of smaller schools, and we generally do both of those. with lots of other duties on top of that. But with the pandemic, we've essentially ran 2 different schools where we had the one in person. Now we have the in person and we have the remote. And with that came a lot of challenges, especially with the remote. I became in charge of feeding the students. So I was now overseeing the feeding or the food service part and figuring out how to get all those lunches out to all the students. But that was kind of a district-wide, everyone had to pitch in to get that accomplished. Some of the challenges we've come up against with having the remote or the attendance, students attending to the actual, we have a full day where the students follow the schedule just like they would be sitting in the classroom. They're doing that same schedule at home, having them attending or logging on for services if they need special services. We did see a slight uptick in homeless also. So there are lots of challenges that came along with the pandemic too.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you. I serve as Director of Pupil Services here in Upper Darby School District. We border Philadelphia. We have about 12,000 students. We are a diverse school district. At any point in time, we have anywhere from 70 to 80 different languages spoken. So we're very diverse. Some of the aspects that are primarily my responsibility, I oversee all of our school nurses and our health services, our central registration department. So enrollment, registration, attendance, truancy, residency, oversee our positive behavioral intervention and support systems across the district, K to 12. I'm also involved in the social and emotional learning at the elementary level, K to 5. I serve as I think both Deidre and Larissa mentioned, I serve as the homeless liaison and the foster care point of contact in our district. I just tying into one of the things that Deidre just mentioned, yeah, attendance has been a challenge. And in particular, students either with having connectivity issues or difficulty logging in and staying in, those students who are learning virtually. So that's definitely one of the challenges that we're working through. But at the same time, an interesting opportunity now that we see that we've had to expand our virtual learning offerings. So I'm excited to see how we evolve and how we incorporate virtual learning, online learning moving forward. We were kind of forced to do it, or at least those districts, those of us who weren't really prepared large scale to do it. We were forced to do it in the last year. And now we have a chance to improve and provide better programming in that area. So there's some of the challenges I'm sure we'll talk about more.
Yeah, we're going to get into them. I think where I want to go next is to talk a little bit about what do you think, how can in what ways can student or pupil services, and I know the terms are a little bit interchangeable. I want to point that out. It kind of depends, I think, geographically where somebody's located at, but those terms are typically fairly interchangeable. How can student or pupil services assist in creating a resilient school culture and really support good social emotional learning in the schools? And for this one, let's go Deidre, then Chris, then Larissa.
Sure, thank you. For Barberton, the Student Services Department worked with the central office and the curriculum, and we have partnered with multiple community persons in the mental health field. So we call them the partners. The group is called the partners, and we meet several times a month. And what we've done is we put together programs for in school for students who are in person. We put together programs for students who are remote, so they also have access to all the different mental health providers that we have. We have after school programs. So if somebody can't participate during the day, they can participate in the evening. We've also partnered with some of our lower income housing to also get those services out to them, plus the tutoring. So we have the mental health services and the tutoring that goes to them. We also are working on a summer program called the Summer Extravaganza, where our mental health partners will also be doing some sessions during that time. We have a morning where we're doing academics, some of the mental health pieces, we're going to feed them. And then we've partnered with a whole other group of partners, like the YMCA, Parks and Rec, Magical Theater, which is a professional theater company in our district, the library, and many others, where we'll have fun activities so they can kind of socialize and kind of be with other students and get back into some normalcy this summer. But we're also having our mental health partners work with that. They also meet with our counselors. Our counselors are point people in the district for families and students who have needs and with mental health issues. And they work with them for programs. They work for identifying students and making referrals. We've just really amped up the wraparound social emotional services with these partnerships.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Sure, they're great examples, Deirdre. Thank you. In Upper Darby, one of the things that we've done first is look to our in-house experts. Thankfully, we have a strong team of school social workers, school counselors, as Deirdre mentioned, school psychologists. Hats off to you, Jason.
Thank you.
And these are folks who their training, right? Their core training, fundamentally, they're strong in the area of social and emotional learning. And so, so the first thing we want to do is be able to tap into those resources, and utilize the staff we have to help to promote to put their strengths and their best practices into practice. So that's one thing, utilize the in-house, the resources that we have, the folks who are very talented and who are trained to promote social and emotional learning. I'm also really thankful and thrilled. I work in a district that has really made a significant investment in social and emotional learning. So we started this concept before the pandemic, but we've continued. We're building a K-12 social and emotional learning curriculum. So, despite the challenges that we faced throughout the pandemic, we've continued to build a curriculum. We work with an outside partner, but together we're working to develop lessons, develop a curriculum map that will provide a comprehensive program. So really the two things we've done right in Upper Darby with respect to that are, focus on the in-house experts and allow them to do their thing and allow them to support students and staff in social and emotional learning, and also develop culturally or develop a system, which in this instance would be a curriculum to help promote social and emotional learning.
Awesome. Thank you. Larissa.
Okay, I can say ditto to Deidre and Chris, because in Oak Ridge, we're doing basically the same thing, looking at those in-house experts first. We are very fortunate that all of our schools, we're a small district. We have 8 schools, one of which is a preschool. But the 7 other schools in our district all have a full-time guidance counselor. The middle schools have 2. High schools have 3, but we have 1 high school. So we look at those in-house specialists as well. Another one of my hats that I wear is I work with coordinated school health. And that person works out of my office. And I was on a Zoom meeting with the PTO council for our district and the superintendent, and I kept hearing parents express concern about their children being at home, the ones that were virtually learning, and they were seeing them very depressed, and they did not know how to handle that and all that. So I got with my coordinated school health person. We reached out to different community organizations, sororities, and so forth, and we came up with mental health stress bags. And it had little goodies in it that we could deliver to the kids. We started with the ones who were virtual at first and got those names and numbers of how many we needed. She got donations. We had a bagging meeting where we bagged everything up and we took it to the schools, and the schools delivered it. So we got the schools involved as making that one-to-one house call. so to speak. So that got them out checking on those students, and the parents were ecstatic that the kids had something that kind of, I guess, helped them de-stress. Things as simple as a ball of bubbles, you know, the little foam stuff that comes in wrapping that you can pop and all that. So we had to end up, we made a bag too for each of our school board members and presented that to them at a school board meeting so they could kind of see how we were looking at mental health, not only with our kids in the building, but also with the ones that were at home virtually learning and the parents. So we've learned to partner with other agencies out there and kind of go from there. We even had the secretariat and the teaching and learning department come up with a little bingo game that the elementary schools challenged the central office staff, and you had to bingo, do something really nice for somebody, take a mental health break, and said put on music and dance. So when you started off with the Isley Brothers and all that, we did that, and I taught my secretary, who does not know how to line dance, but she does now because we went out in the hallway and that was our mental health release. And the secretary, one of the other secretaries came out and videotaped it and put it on our school social media, and we were getting all kind of hits. People were saying, you know, that even though we may be adults, we have some mental health issues going on as well, but we were trying to show them some good ways to relieve stress and go from there. So I think what I have found out on my end is that you have to tap into not only your in-house people, but the people outside your school community that are willing to work with you and donate things and help with that, because mental health is a big issue. It's one of those silent things that if you're not aware of it, you don't even know it exists in your home. So,
yeah, I love that. And I think I was just having a discussion with some mental health professionals the other day, and there's a cycle, kind of the response after a disaster. And I think we're going to be in like the beginning of next year. I think we're still going to probably see a pretty significant increase in mental health challenges that we're trying to help kids and even our adult staff deal with. You struck a chord when you mentioned the stress bags. You've got a list of people that are they're trying to get you to send one to them personally. Do you recall off the top of your head what other items were in the stress bags? People were curious about that.
Okay, we had a little bottle of bubbles. We had the packing that is puffed up and you can pop it, you know, and that. We also had the stress balls. We had simple puzzles in there where you can sit down and just, you know, draw pictures or color in pictures, because coloring relieves stress, whether you believe it or not. Those kinds of things. So the simpler and the more mundane you think it is, the easier it is for people to get into it and do it. We had, I know within my neighborhood, a lot of the kids where I live go to our school system, and they had gone out, our art teacher was putting out colored chalk, and they were going out and making chalk drawings as people walked around the neighborhood and stuff. Awesome. So, you know, playing games. Some of these kids have never heard of hopscotch and jacks and jump rope and those kind of simple things like that. Just, I guess the things that some of us that have been around a while grew up on that these kids have never seen, that we took pleasure in doing, is what we did. So it wasn't anything very expensive. We even had it wasn't a FedEx, it was, but it was a mail center that told Marcia, who is my coordinate school health person, she wrote out letters, I signed them too for donations. They gave her so much of that bubble wrap, she had to make 2 trips in her truck to go pick it up. And we had a cutting party where we cut it into squares to go into the bags. So it became a community kind of thing. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
I don't even think I properly introduced myself, but I'm Jason. I moderate these. I'm with the WhyTry organization. My background is I'm a school psych. one of my secret tools in my office always was some bubble wrap. It's a
Yeah.
great de-escalation thing. Chris, a couple people asked when you were talking, I don't know if you have any that you're willing to share, but they were curious what some of the outside organizations you had partnered up with were to try to offer some of those support services.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Would love to. With respect, well, Lakeside, the Lakeside Neurologic group, we've partnered with them, and we do two different, actually, they initially, they are helping us implement a trauma-informed approach. And they've been a wonderful partner, and they also we are working with them to develop and implement our social and emotional learning. We're focusing on CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. We're focusing on their 5, the core competencies.
Yep.
So what we've done is we've taken what was our PBIS system and really strengthened our PBIS system by incorporating those CASEL skills. But it was Lakeside Neurologic. They've helped us with trauma-informed care and with the social and emotional learning.
Awesome.
That's the group with respect.
Thank
to
you.
that.
Thank
Sure.
you for following up on that.
Yeah.
Next question I want to throw out to you. I think you've all done a great job of illustrating how broad student and pupil services is. And I think sometimes that can maybe almost be overwhelming because it just kind of envelops, I think, a lot of what's going on with the lives of the kids that are in our schools. Wondering if you could share any specific tips or suggestions that could help schools better support and make better use of their student or pupil services that are available. And for this one, let's go Chris, Deidre, then Larissa.
So you want to focus on ways that school districts can better utilize
school districts or schools, or even if I'm a teacher with a classroom teacher with kids that are just struggling, and maybe I don't even know, fully what student or pupil services could do to help make my life easier and help improve the lives of the kids that I'm working with. So any of the above, I think, would be relevant.
I mean, for me, the impact and the importance of relationships has been like I don't know, life-changing, but it has had a real significant impact on how I approach not only pupil services, student services, but just life in general. I think that strong, supportive relationships serve as the foundation for success and meaning and happiness in all areas of life. And as we build stronger relationships, I think we wind up with the greater potential to be better at everything we do. So we have a program in Upper Darby where this is another group we've worked with, the Center for Supportive Relationships. We do coaching where we provide direct coaching to classroom teachers on specific skills to help them build stronger relationships with their students. And I'll just, like, one of the skills that we focus on that I think is so important is expressing personal interest. So we work with teachers to improve, and really, I mean, lots of teachers do this well. We know this. Teachers are awesome at this. But at times, with busyness and curriculum and pacing guides and all kinds of hectic, stressful things, certain skills maybe aren't as much of a focus. So we talk about helping teachers demonstrate to students that they matter beyond just being a student in their classroom. So we focus on, just letting students know that we care about them outside of them being a student in their class. And we also want to bring that not outside the classroom. We want principals to communicate that to their teachers. We want supervisors to communicate that to principals, that people matter beyond just their work role. And I think when we do that, then we're better at our work because we feel more comfortable, we're safer, we feel better, and we're just better. So we build stronger relationships with one another, we're better at our work as well. So that's one of the areas that really is meaningful for me, and something that I'm thankful we are able to focus on here in Upper Darby.
That's awesome. And I think we're going to probably come back and even drill a little bit deeper into that concept of relationships, because I know for us as a WhyTry organization, that is central to our whole SEL approach as well. So that's awesome. Deidre.
Thank you. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with Chris about the relationships. It's all about the relationships. You're not going to get very far without that. My district does a lot of different meetings with the different, like assistant principals, nurses, all kinds of the groups. Student services generally isn't invited to all those. So I have made it my goal to crash all those meetings. So I invite myself to all those meetings. That way I can listen to, some of the issues that are going on. And then, towards the end of the meeting, I can ask, well, how can student services help? These are some of the things that we do. What can my department do to help you as a teacher, or you as an assistant principal, or the school nurse, or whatever the case might be. We also go, myself and my assistant go to staff meetings, talking about what student services, all the roles in which they play. We have a cheat sheet that we put out that, okay, so if you're having problems in these kinds of areas, this is the person you would call for that. So we kind of have a cheat sheet for a go-to person on that. But yeah, the relationship and in going to all these meetings, I built more relationships up, and then they're not afraid to ask, even if they think it's wrong or something, they'll come to me and ask questions, or I can point them in the right direction of where they need to go.
That's awesome. I'm crossing my fingers. I talked a little bit about when we had Trish Hatch on, talking about school counselors a couple months ago. There is this kind of historic tendency in schools where we all kind of have our own lane that we exist in, and we don't want to get out of our lane. And I think the pandemic has forced us to have to kind of expand those lanes a little bit, because the kids, they bounce in and out of all of our worlds. And if we're siloed in our approach, it makes it a little bit tougher. So I love that idea of you crashing those meetings, because student services is the place that ends up supporting whatever plans get made for these kids anyway. So I love it.
I have to cross so many lanes. I just put my sirens on and away I go. So
Perfect. Larissa.
Okay, well, I like what Chris and Deidre both have said, and I kind of chuckled when Deidre said she crashes a lot of those meetings. They crash my meetings. They come in and that, this is what we found, we're working on this, or we found that on this, and kind of go from that, because I feel like pupil services, it expands a lot of areas, but we have those big arms, I guess, like a grandparent or something, that people rely on. And even to the point where people know me, even if I don't know them. If I'm out in the community, if I'm in the grocery store, I was in the grocery store the other day, and this lady said, "You're that lady from Pupil Services, right? That knows everybody and does everything." And I'm going, "Well, yes." And she never did tell me who she was. So word gets out. But I always try to carry a bunch of business cards. So when I run into somebody, I can give my business card. They can call me, they can email me, and kind of go from there. I've reached out to a lot of the churches in the area when we were having this pandemic, because they knew what were going on with their members, and especially, and I don't know how this has affected anybody else, but when we started getting those pandemic EBT cards, and people did not know who to reach out to, what they needed to do. They were getting mixed signals and misinformation. So who do they call? They call Pupil Services. And we even were the ones that ended up getting a bunch of those cards because they used the school's address the first round in the state of Tennessee to get them, because we were right at the cusp of COVID, and they knew schools were going to be closed. But Pupil Services spearheaded that. So I think too, there's a lot of different things out there. You have to partner with different people that you may not have partnered with before. As Chris said, kind of branch out and reach with, and kind of go from there. Places that you may not have known. And with the homeless population, it made me more aware of places that we needed to let people know, if you know of this, this, and this, call and let us know. So you've heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a whole city and community to help with all this COVID and things that were going on. Our superintendent even reached out to different businesses and got them to make donations to technology for MiFis for the families that didn't have the strong enough internet. Because when you've got internet at home and the kids come home and they're just playing games, but now everybody's working from home, they're getting on the website for school. Well, that thing's going to crash. It can only hold so many people. And so he was trying to make sure everybody had that. And we were also trying to make sure everybody's had a device. Because when you ask people if they have internet, they're going to tell you yes, but they're using a phone. And it's hard to do homework on a phone. So we had to be as accommodating and non-critical of some of these families, because you've got some very proud families that we know that were in need, but they were not going to say a word. And those were the families we tried to touch and reach as well. My department, we also have a full-time translator that, and she speaks Spanish because that's our more dominant foreign language right now. But I was able to get her full-time, started out part-time, and she was able to translate documents, be on meetings, be on Zoom calls, and help our Hispanic population understand, some of the things that were going on. And if they had a need, that it was okay to come to us for help as well. So we've learned to, we're not in a bubble. We're all in this together. And it has developed relationships. And I think these relationships are going to get tighter as we go through this. I don't think everybody's going to just drop the ball and say, okay, I don't need you anymore. We still need each other, because I don't think this is over with yet. It's kind of died down a little bit, but I think we still need that camaraderie.
We are, and we're coming back from, we've got kids that haven't been in a classroom for over a year at this point.
Right.
And then just the general nature of trauma and response to different disasters, like it will impact us at different times and it'll come in waves. And
right.
I agree. That leads us, Larissa, I think, into where I wanted to go next. So one of the things I've loved the most about the time I've been able to spend with all of you is the kind of the shared passion for relationships and really focusing on those and recognizing those as kind of the secret to connection, to motivation. That is right at the core of our values as an SEL organization at WhyTry. And, for me personally, that's always been the thing that's been the kind of the secret to my approach as well. A couple people have mentioned in the comments, and this is exactly where I wanted to go with it as well. Wondered if you could talk a little bit about not just the importance of relationships in our ability to do our jobs as educators, but any tips or specific strategies that you have on how to effectively build and maintain relationships, especially kind of what we've had to do through the pandemic. It's been so much more difficult, but tips around relationships in general. Let's go Larissa, Deidre, then Chris.
Okay, I think one of the things I've had to do, which I started off doing anyway, even as an administrator, I had an open door policy. You didn't have to have an appointment to come in and see me or whatever. When I got to Pupil Services, I kind of kept the same thing going, but when the pandemic hit, you couldn't do that. You had the social distancing, you had to do all this other stuff, but I still tried to make myself available and accessible to parents and go from there. If there was a family in need, they knew they could call. I would try to get the services that they needed, steer them toward that person, even be the icebreaker to that other agency. Because sometimes they're afraid to speak up and let other people know what's going on with them. Our homeless population went up, and I'm the homeless liaison. I think Chris said the same thing about him, foster care, and so forth. And so you've got to have that big open heart and be compassionate. I think if nothing else, I have tried to teach people to be compassionate toward other people, because we could have been in the same boat as some of our families. We just happened to be in a position that I always tell people, nobody wanted my position anyway. There's too much stuff to do. But you had other people that were in positions, and now they've got to rely on somebody else for help. And they don't know how to do that without their pride suffering. So I would try to be very open. If they came and shared something with me, and I would share with the school just enough to let them know what was going on, but not all the intimate details, because I wanted to keep that relationship with that family or with that group and go from there. Even one of the other duties I do is court. I'm the court liaison. So if I found that a family was in trouble and they were going to court, I worked with the judge and the probation officers to keep, this is a breadwinner. You lock him up or her up, then we've got a homeless family and there's nobody here. So we tried to work together. I think trying to see the other side of the coin, so to speak, without being judgment calls. Be less judgmental, I think, if nothing else,
Thank you. I love that. And when you use that term icebreaker, that really resonated with me. I think there's so many families that don't know how to navigate these systems. Like even just the process of setting up a mental health appointment may be a very foreign, maybe even a scary process to a family that has never navigated that system. And we're surrounded by all these systems.
Right.
And I think that's one of the places that great individuals and pupil and student services can really be helpful, because they do need a little bit of kind of TLC to not only get into that system, but then to stay motivated to navigate it, because sometimes these systems are a pain in the backside and not simple to navigate. So that assistance is awesome. Yes. I think next we had Deidre and then Chris.
Sure, thank you. Yes, I totally agree with Larissa. I also do the open door policy and that's whether whether it's staff or whether it's parents. So they get the same person no matter who it is that's coming in here. And part of I think that's been easy for me to build relationships is longevity. I've been in this position for a long time now, and I've got to know all the families. Some of the families have graduated, they've got students coming through now. So I've really gotten to know my families. And if there's a problem at the building, they'll call and say, hey, this is the problem. And then we work through it through there. And I'm kind of like that buffer between the issue they think they're having and the family. So I think that longevity goes a long way with knowing your families, knowing your parents, and even your staff. I use a lot of humor. If we can't laugh, we're going to be crying. So I do use a lot of humor, and I just think that's so important to make light of things, even though they're very heavy and important to the parents. But that way we can all laugh about it. And being available anytime. That's day or evening. I've got people calling in the evening. I have staff calling in the evening with just questions or they had a concern. Okay, I feel better now that I've shared that with somebody. So and communication, open communication, just, being very transparent in what you're doing. And again, going back to the meetings with the staff and stuff, I insert myself in and we keep that communication open. That's the only way we're going to solve problems that whatever issue we're working on is that open communication. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Well, I love what Deidre said about accessibility and humor. Absolutely huge components to building relationships, and Larissa modeling that compassion and sympathy. Amen to both of those or all those strategies. And in Upper Darby, what we've done is we've established a model, so to speak, of how we do relationships. So we have a framework, we call it the relational bank account. And the idea is we make deposits by showing care and respect to others. We want to limit withdrawals. And we always want to make sure we're adding to the relationship, strengthening the relationship by making deposits. And then we have specific behaviors we focus on. We make deposits by thanking and praising and sort of, so what we do is we set up a culture or a system of how we do relationships. So I think in addition to the individual behaviors that Larissa and Deirdre mentioned, which are extremely important, I would also add a good way to do that is to have, a culture or a system of how to do relationships so that it's understood, similar vocabulary, similar terminology, similar ideas as to, how to build relationships. So there's some of the things that we do and we've done here in Upper Darby.
Nice. Any specific things you've done during the pandemic to try to build relationships, during social distancing, during technology limitations, anything? I know that's been kind of the big challenge for everybody. Just curious if you have any specifics relative to that you feel like have been helpful. And I'll just open that up to any of you that.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I've done is when the pandemic hit, and you had a lot of families going through a lot of different things, and we had a lot of families losing family members and stuff. I would reach out to that family, if nothing else, but sending a sympathy card, letting them know that I understand what you're going through, kind of thing. If you need to talk, if you need anything, to please let me know. Same thing with the churches. They will call and say, we've got this family. They don't want to come forward. And I would just say, well, just tell me what they need and kind of go from there. And we would do that. Also with when they come in, I don't judge people. So I try to make sure you don't have that I don't have a judgmental nature or complex. And it's easy for people to say, I don't, and then you have that big wall. But I think what I have learned to do is to have more empathy with people than sympathy with people. There is a difference. And some people don't understand that there is a difference. And people can recognize that. As small as a young child, if they know that you really care about them and show empathy, that goes a long way. So I try to do that and then touch base back with them later. How's things going? Kind of thing. Because you don't want people thinking, well, this is a one-time thing, and then you're moving on to somebody else. But I've had as repeat customers, kind of thing. And that's good because that builds that relationship. And a lot of times they'll call me and I'll say, well, just tell me what's going on. I'm sitting there and I'm writing down stuff as they're telling me. And it makes them feel better, as Deidre said, to let them know they've got somebody they can talk to. And I get a lot of phone calls that say, I know you're not the person, but I just need to have somebody to talk to that can tell me which route I need to go. And sometimes I am, and other times I'm not, but I can direct them to somebody within their school, within the district, or even within the community that they never even talked about, and can even break that ice and say, let me call this person. Do you mind if I give them your contact number? Or email? They'll give out email quicker than they give out numbers, and then kind of go from there. So I think just being there and accessible and available for them at any time. I'm like Deidre, I'm answering emails late at night, over the weekends, so people know that you're accessible. Because I think when COVID shut everything down, it shut families down, it shut people down. So you got to start back building those relationships back up. And if you want to have a friend, you have to be friendly. So you can't draw people in if you're going to be standoffish and don't want to be bothered with them.
I love it. So good. Chris, Deidre, anything you want to add for kind of pandemic specific relational strategies?
We found that with the remote students, they kind of felt disconnected. They're at home, even though they could see people on the screen, they kind of felt disconnected. So we assigned 1 or 2 people at each of our buildings that reach out to at least once or twice a week to those families who are remote, just checking in with them, saying, I see you didn't, you missed class on this date or whatever. Is there anything that you need? Just kind of touching base with them and just keeping a connection between them and the school, because they were just kind of feeling that, we're kind of here by ourselves and nobody really cares about us. So we started reaching out a couple of times a week to each of those families.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
We've, in our district, we've offered or provided a number of virtual parent trainings. So connected to both what Deirdre and Larissa were saying, that the disconnection that the pandemic has created, or the disconnect. So we really, address that head on, and we've provided a number of different topics, but two of them in particular I want to mention were on specific parenting skills. So Parenting for Humans was the name of the group, and Ram McGinn is his name. And we provided, right, so parents with specific communication skills, how to better connect with your children. So that's one of the ways that we worked to support families in the remote setting, by engaging with parents and supporting them and helping them better connect with their children.
That's awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that. WhyTry has developed a parent guide to resilience that we've gotten great feedback on. We've been using over the last year. We're going to send a follow-up survey after this, but we'll be happy to share that parent guide to anybody that's been on here. And I'll make sure I get you three a link to it as well, because it's one more nice resource, especially if you're connecting with parents. Let's finish up. I'm going to make it kind of a two-part question for this last 7 minutes that we have. Just curious, anything you've done to kind of help your colleagues survive the pandemic? But then the one I really am interested in hearing is, talk just briefly about some of the things you feel like have been successes that you've experienced during the pandemic. The pandemic it's been rough. We've all carried a really heavy load, and I think it's taken an impact on all of us. Would love to hear. I love hearing about things that people consider successes through this. Let's go Chris, Deidre, Larissa. Successes
first.
You choose.
All right. I have to highlight our school nurses in Upper Darby. I think it's been such a, it's just exciting and rewarding and fulfilling to see how they've stepped up to the challenge that the pandemic has created. Certainly, we know how important school nurses are in regular, normal times, but this past year has, I think, put much more of a spotlight on how important they are to promote, maintain, create good health in the school. So to see our nurses just be, respond so well to the challenges, day in and day out, with contact tracing and connecting with the community, with the county health department and with families, and we're doing antigen testing, all kinds of work. And we've also been, another success community-wide, we partnered with a local hospital to do a number of vaccine clinics. So we were part of vaccinating, over, I don't want to say, close to 3,000 people total. And they, we've had volunteers, our school nurses, as well as other folks in our district. So that's been a really, really great success. Just seeing people rise to this challenge and seeing the good in people come out despite this really challenging situation. The second part was what have I done to help?
What have you done to help out colleagues? What are you guys doing to keep each other's spirits up, self-care wise?
I do my best to start meetings by asking people to just share something good, share good news, share a celebration, work related or not, to sort of set the tone that people matter first. How people are feeling and experiencing the moment is important, and then get to work. Work is important, but it's not more important than how people are feeling and doing. So I think recognizing that for me is really important, and more so now. I tell people to get outside too. Get outside, when it's sunny, go, take a few minutes, get outside, walk around, see the sunshine or experience the sunshine. So that's one of the things I do.
Nice. Thank you. Deidre.
Sure.
Thanks, Chris. That was great information. What we do, we've brought back the employee assistance program whenever an employee is struggling in various different ways with mental health or any other issues, just resources for them that they're able to reach out to administration, and we can provide those resources for them. We also do something called pop cards, so staff members can nominate each other And it just kind of we do a monthly shout out then of, you know, the different things that they were nominated for. They get a little can of pop and a little little treat or something to go with it. But those are kind of fun. Some of the successes, we have two programs. We have the Esther Ryan Shoe Fund, where if families in need can request shoes. And we work with our Kiwanis group, and we've done that every year. In the fall, it went from doing cards to the parents where we had issues where parents would sell the card or different things. The pandemic has actually allowed us to change the program where we take all that middle stuff out, and I'm actually getting the shoes for them. So I go and purchase probably 300 pairs of shoes through applications and stuff. And we were able to still get those out even with the pandemic. So I was excited about that. We also do a Hope for the Holidays program where with between the community and the staff members, we purchase gifts and food baskets. We get ham and turkey donations. I mean, they get a complete meal for the holidays. We had to change that around a bit because we couldn't just have packages showing up and stuff like that. So we did gift cards and baskets this time, but we were still able to do that for all our families in need. And we serve at least 200 to 300 families with those baskets. And this is all donations from staff and community members that do this. And that, of course, is run through my office too on that. But I was very excited that we're still able to help them do that. And then our summer extravaganza is something new that we got off the ground, even with the pandemic. So I'm very excited to see if we can help even more students this summer recoup some of those skills due to the pandemic.
I love it. Thank you, Larissa.
Okay. As far as what I do for the staff, I have all kinds of different cards. So I am one of those people that will sit down and handwrite out cards. And so I will put a card in somebody's box, mailbox, or some kind of little treat in their mailbox when they least expect that kind of thing. I also keep a list of birthdays of my staff members, and so they may get a birthday card in the mail from me. And sometimes if I know of a secretary, if I'm in, just happen to pass and somebody said, well, did you know so-and-so had a birthday last week? Then that person gets a card. Because everybody they smile when you get something in the mail. It's got your name on it and you wasn't expecting it. And also we've done things where because of COVID, you've had to kind of restrict bringing food in and all that. So when we do things, I have a member of my sorority. Her mom is a baker. And so I'll call her and say what I'm looking at, and she will do different little things, and she will individualize it. So you get your own little cupcake in its own little container with its own other little stuff. So that kind of thing we do. On the larger scale, we have hosted 2 district-wide COVID clinics for our staff. So we have given out probably about 800 shots for dose 1 and 2 total. We combined that or partnered with our local fire department, our health department, a doctor's office. We had it in the high school gym. And we had other people, maintenance coming in and helping supervise, traffic control and stuff. And that went really well. And what we found out, if we had extra serum left, we had people getting on the phone, contacting other friends or agencies that may work with kids like at daycares or whatever. If you can come over, we've got this many shots and kind of go from there. So that's one thing we've done. When we did when the pandemic hit and schools were closed, we knew families needed food. We did not put a criteria on the child being enrolled in our school. If they could get to one of those distribution sites and there was an adult and kids, we gave enough food to last for 2 or 3 days and they could come back. So you had different people in the community as well as the schools, and we had our mask and gloves and all that stuff on, and they come up and we hand out food. And parents that or families that did not have transportation, they called either the superintendent's office or my office or the food service, and we took food to them. So,
Nice.
we have a distribution point there. So we were getting food out as best we could on that and different things. So we tried to make it as, I know this pandemic kind of left everybody at wit's ends, but we were trying to make it as comfortable as we could for a lot of these families. And
That's so good. I love that. Those are great ideas, and people have really expressed a lot of gratitude for the ideas shared. We're going to go just a couple more minutes. We're going to wrap up here. I'm going to just throw one last question out to you. And while we do that, just for everybody's information, we have recorded this and we'll send out an email once we've got it uploaded to our channel. I'm going to put up a couple slides if any of you are interested in finding out more about the WhyTry organization or in getting in contact with any of our panelists to follow up on any of their ideas. We're going to have 2 slides rotating through here. But while we close out, while I've got everybody up on the screen, I want to hear just final response. What's giving you hope right now? Let's go Deidre, Chris, and then Larissa. Actually, excuse me. Yeah, Deidre, Larissa, then Chris. What's giving you hope right now? And then I'm going to give Larissa a minute to give just a little final information on NAPSA. Go ahead.
What's giving me hope right now? We've been in person since the beginning of the school year. Like I said, we have been running 2 different schools, a virtual and an in-person. But even with all our in-person and staff, we've had very few quarantines where we've had to exclude students and things like that. So that's very hopeful. The plan we have in place for protecting everybody is working. Staff, students, parents are all on board with it, so that's working great. We found many things due to the COVID that we changed that we're doing differently, that we're going to continue even after all this goes away. We've discovered that some of our students really thrive on the remote learning. So we want to make sure we're able to offer that to families who may need a remote option when this is all over. We've noticed a rise in attendance in IEP meetings also, since we have this remote option rather than a phone call. So those are options that we're going to also keep open for parents. So those are some of the things that I've discovered.
Thank you. Larissa, what's giving you hope right now?
Well, what's giving me hope right now, we did not have to shut down any schools either in Oak Ridge. And as far as the number of positive cases, we had very few. The cases we did have were where people were around people that were positive in the community and then came back into the building. So it wasn't the opposite, in the building and it went out. So that was very good. The other thing is, I think the younger our students were, we were concerned about our elementary and preschool students not keeping their mask on. They did a better job with that than the adults did. And in fact, they reminded the adults, you better put your mask on if you didn't have one on. So that was good on that end. Also, we did what we call the hybrid model. We had all our elementary schools, with the exception of a few, were virtual. The others were in person, and that went really well. We split the population for our middle and high schools because of the number of kids, and we thought that would help with the social distancing and all that. Well, when kids got tired of being at home, I think we started easing those kids back in, and so far that's working real well. The virtual piece, we found out, I guess a couple of weeks ago in the state of Tennessee, that we cannot have a virtual school. A district can't. They're going to have a state virtual school. We don't know what that's going to look like and how it's going to impact our students, but we'll just have to wait and see on that end as well and go from there. But I think for some of the students, the virtual school was working for them, and for others it was not. I think a lot of the parents were calling saying we're ready for them to come back in person because they know the kids miss that connectivity and relationships and going from there. So I think we've got a plan and we're working with it. and going from there. What I also noticed that I am very pleased with so far, I'm also the discipline hearing officer for my district. I had very few hearings. I don't know if COVID had anything to do with it, or they were so glad to come into the building, they knew how to behave. They didn't want to stay home like they had been the rest of the last year. So those are things that I think have worked for us. Again, we're a very small district, but I have noticed increase in homeless, increase in families moving in, buying houses, which is a good economic thing for us, but very few discipline problems as far as long-term out-of-school suspensions.
That's great news. Chris, what's giving you hope?
Well, people always give me hope. And I think for me to know that despite going through this global pandemic, one of the greatest challenges any of us have ever seen, where people were learning about how to do things better. Deidre said there are things that we learned that we're going to continue to do after the pandemic is over, which I think is fantastic. And I think we're seeing that too. So I think what gives me most hope is that despite this incredible challenge, people are coming together, working hard, showing resilience, growing, becoming better. And so I'm hopeful for a better future, a better tomorrow, a better next week, a better next month, etc. So that's what gives me hope.
I'm right there with you. That's what's given me hope. And kids still, quite frankly, give me hope. Their kids are remarkably resilient.
Right.
The way I'm seeing kids respond and do some incredibly mature and responsible things amidst all this challenge. We really all owe it to them to keep giving them the best experience that they can get through the access to education. And so, Larissa, before I wrap it up, do you want to just share some brief information on anybody that would be interested in learning more about NAPSA or even becoming a part of it?
Yes. NAPSA is the National Organization for Pupil Services Administrators. And we are a national organization. We may be small in number, but we do a lot of good things for pupil services. I am the president of that organization right now, and Deidre Parsons, who's on this webinar, is the president-elect. We have a person on the Hill by the name of Richard Scott, and when any news breaks on the Hill, NAPSA gets it as well. So we get that information out to our members. There are a lot of free things that you can get, materials, webinars, just by being a member of NAPSA. When we meet in person, Deidre can tell you, we've had some very dynamic speakers. And we've gone different places. We've had a good time. We built a good camaraderie with each other, and we learn from each other. We do a round table, and we get to share some of the things that we've encountered during our time as a pupil services director. So I would encourage you to become a part of NAPSA. Jason has our website on the screen, and it was scrolling through. Just tap in and you can check out the website, see the newsletter that's up, some of the information and different things, and you would enjoy it. We plan to have our next conference in Pittsburgh, unless we have some more COVID issues. But if we do, we're still going to do it virtual. We've even got that planned, and we're working on that so that we can better serve our members as well. So I would love to see you become a member of NAPSA. And we have people from all over the country. So it's not just centralized in one place. And we would love to see you come out.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I just want to conclude by thanking all of our panelists and thanking all of our attendees. Give all of you a virtual round of applause. Huge thanks to our participants. There were so many good ideas being shared in the chat room. And then this group of panelists it's been so inspiring to me. It's definitely helped charge my batteries a little bit. All of the kids that are in the district that you all work in are lucky to have you. There is so much goodness amongst all of these panel members, and I was just thrilled to be witness to it. So huge thank you to everybody. We've got some information scrolling up here, and that's all we've got. We're going to hold another webinar next week. I think we're going to be focusing specific on some mental health support for kiddos in schools. And I'm super excited for that one. And otherwise, go have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. I hope you all have a great week.